I'm Lois.
And I'm Stacey.
And you're listening to Whose Girl Are You?
Today we have my friend Ashley. And I'm pretty excited. We're going to talk all about foster adopt and everything that entails. You ready?
Sounds great. Thanks for joining us, Ashley. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. I have a question for you. Whose girl are you?
First off, I am a daughter of the king, and
Yes.
My earthly parents are Dean and Martha.
Nice.
Where were you raised?
New Ipswich.
Nice.
East Coast girl.
Yeah.
And I'm still here.
I know. There's most of my friends are actually transplants to the area. You know? So you're like an original.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So, right off the bat, when I hear someone say that they're going to foster a kid or they want to adopt a kid, my first question is like, what happened before that to get you to that point? Like, where does the story start?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess for me and Talon, our story starts, well, basically when I was born. So when I was born with a mild case of Turner syndrome, which affected my ability to have kids.
Okay.
So they told me that probably when I was at age 10 or 11. And so ever since then, I had kind of known, like, that was something I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I came from a big family. Talon comes from a big family. So after we had been married for about 7 years, first it took Talon a little bit to get on board.
Yeah.
He wanted to try and, have kids naturally and just see if there was something we can do. So we tried meeting with a couple natural doctors, just to see if there was anything they could do. And, this whole time, like, I had been praying, like, okay, like, if that's, it's always been on my heart, like, if it's something that we are supposed to do, like, you kind of have to change his heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so one night he came to me and he said, are you still, like, is that something you still want to do? And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, why? He's like, well, I've been thinking about it, and yeah, I think we should do that.
So hang on a second. So all this time you didn't like nag and harp and beg about it. You wanted
it. You're only human, right?
Exactly.
But not too much, because he came and said, is this something you still want to do? So like, obviously you had restrained yourself quite a bit from.
I did. So, we talked about it and I'd bring it up, but then I guess for me, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, like, he has to, be on board. I can't force him to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have other people tell me, just drag him to an adoption agency.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful.
That's not going to work with him.
Right.
So the next day, I started looking at adoption agencies and I filled out a information request form, for one. And on it, one of the things they wanted to know was, your church affiliation and your pastor. And I happened to be going to the church that day, and I asked Jordan, I said, hey, Jordan, I'm trying to fill out this paperwork and this is what it's asking for. Would you be the contact that they're looking for at the church?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, yeah, you could put me, or anyone like really in the office. He said, well, what agency is it through? And I told him, and he just kind of chuckled. He said, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I don't know. Why? And he said, well, we're going to their informational meeting tonight. You want to come with us?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I was like, well, let me talk to Talon and see. And so I called Talon. And he's like, oh my word, I just told you last night, like, that I'm open to it, and you already have me going to meetings. So we ended up going to the informational meeting, and we got all the information, and, on the way home, we talked about everything, and a few days later, we both felt like, okay, no, that wasn't the way we were supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So then we prayed about it more, and we decided to foster. So I got in touch with a resource worker there, and they were like, oh, like we have classes starting in like 2 weeks, if you wanted to jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up jumping into the classes, did the classes, went through, you do like a fire inspection, a safety home inspection, and then you do 3 home interviews. So it's a long process once you do all the classes and the inspections and the interviews. And
How many classes? Is it like a lot of classes or?
it was 7 classes, I believe.
Wow.
Do you have to pay to go to the classes or is it free to go to the class?
No. So yeah, it was 7 classes. So that was like once a week. So that took 7 weeks just to do all the classes and get through that. And then the inspections and the rest of like your paperwork, we had to be fingerprinted, and you have to wait for that to come back from the state, and all of that. So the process took a while, but we got licensed. And then the first thing we did was, we did like respite care just to try to like try it out. I don't know, do a short term. So we did respite care for, it was actually a set of twins.
Can you explain what is respite care? What does that mean?
So respite care is, say another foster family needs a break or is going on vacation, and for some reason the foster kids aren't allowed to go.
Okay.
They're placed with another foster family just temporarily.
Okay,
so it's basically temporary care.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. That was the first thing we did. And then then after that.
You said you got a set of twins?
Yes.
Whoa.
How old were they?
They were.
Were they like babies?
11 months.
Oh,
wow. That's jumping in at the deep end.
And you still decided to go forward.
Oh, that's awesome.
We actually had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I think Stacey, you probably know, like after that, how it was during the time I was helping you try to do the women's retreat. We got a call, for the baby girl, and she had just been born, and they needed someone to take her. So we went to the hospital, we held her for a while, and they were teaching us, how to feed her and all of that. Cause she had a couple, like, special things that she needed. And then, so, we were like, okay, you can come back and pick her up in the morning. And we, kind of scrambled and got a couple things together. We got a phone call. I think it was like 6:30 the next morning. And they told us, actually, don't come. We don't need you to come anymore. So it's a roller coaster.
Emotionally, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So,
oh boy.
And no matter what case you get, no matter like what we did, it was very emotional and like ups and downs. But yeah, so that was basically our start.
So you didn't end up with her coming to your home?
No.
Wow. Okay.
No, I remember. So was that the very first retreat we had done, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. So, my nerves were a little bit like, I don't know. I hope this all works out. And Ashley comes up and she's so sweet. And she's like, I might have to leave because, we're going to be getting this baby. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ashley, go. Like, no matter what, like that's way more important. We were so excited for her because we knew it was something she had been waiting for. So we were all pretty sad to hear that didn't work out too because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that case? I mean, do you just trust that for some reason God did not have that as a child that you would care for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, yeah. I mean, for me, I have to have that mindset. Like,
Trust in the Lord and.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good.
So how many foster placements did you end up having all in all?
So we ended up having, let me see, 1, 2, 7, I think.
Wow.
And then we adopted the 3 we have now.
So the 7 that you fostered, were they babies, older, or a variety?
It was a range.
Yeah, range.
Yeah. So, we had 10-year-old for a little bit. We had a 6-week-old for a little bit. We had, I think, a 4-year-old. So it was different.
Yeah.
So it's not like they have you fill out paperwork and be like, I want only kids from 0 to 5, or I only want kids from 10 to 18.
Oh,
can you do that?
You can, yes. So you can be very specific what you are willing to do. So when we signed up, that's one of the forms you fill out.
So when you guys signed up, you just checked all the boxes like, we'll do anything for anyone at any time? Because you had such a variety.
So I think originally we had said 5 and under. But they would call and ask us anyways.
Right.
And some were short term, like, hey, it's just going to be 10 days or,
Right.
So.
Yeah, I see how it works. So when it came down to, so you did 0 to 5 at first,
yes.
And then with the kids that you ended up having more long-term placements and then adopted, were they all within that age bracket when you took them in?
So
first,
yes.
the first adoption, you had been fostering for how long before she came into your life? Like you had done multiple placements already and she comes along, she's number...
I think she was let me see. Was she number 4?
Are you looking through your diary? You're like flipping through pages.
I am.
You're like, I don't know. It was such a, I can imagine that with that many different things going on and the emotions, it's a little bit of a blur. I mean, all of us as parents, the kids' childhoods are a little bit of a blur, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got licensed in January and Rebecca came to us in June.
Wow.
Okay. So not too long after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she came as a foster placement.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
She came as a foster placement. And then how does the adoption process work then?
So with her, what they do is the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look for any family member and they're going to reach out to family first. So they started that process, and if there is a willing family member, they get interviewed and background checked and all of that. And if there's no red flags, then typically a foster placement will go to family.
Mm-hmm.
If they go through all of that and there is no eligible family member, then they start working on terminating the parental rights of the biological parents. And then once their rights are, terminated, then you get your adoption date and you can adopt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long process. It took for her, it was almost 2 years. And actually it was almost 2 years for the boys too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
For everything to be finalized. Yeah. But at the beginning, you obviously don't know.
Right.
We signed ourselves up to be a foster to adopt family.
Okay.
Because you can check that. You can check to do just respite. You can do foster only. You can do foster to adopt only, or, all three, or,
Mm-hmm.
If you do foster to adopt only, do they tend to try to give you placements that they think would be more likely to turn into adopt, or no?
So, or that they know the parental rights are being terminated and that's where it's headed.
Mm-hmm.
But still kind of a roller coaster, right? Because at any point, if a family member presents themselves and says that they're going to obviously want to place them with family, because that is
right.
Blood is blood. And so to give them some stability, but so they have to go through all of the proper channels, which I really do appreciate. From your side, it's a little bit hard, right? Because you're waiting on it. But from the parent side, putting yourself in the biological parent's position, you think to yourself, if I was in a position where I was having substance abuse issues or different things and the kids got taken away, sometimes that's a wake up call, right? And the person would go and maybe get the help that they need and go to rehab and get back up on their feet. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time so that they would have a chance to redeem themselves. And then I do understand also that coming to a point where it's gone on too long and this kid needs a placement because kids are vulnerable. So like, it's so hard because you look at all the different sides of it and it's just not easy for anybody.
It's not. And one thing they do tell you, like going through the classes, is your goal is reunification with their family. Like that's the goal.
Right.
And I know in New Hampshire, I don't know about other states, but parents do get a year to correct anything they need to correct. And then you have a court hearing every 3 months and they basically they check in, they give them goals or, things that they have to do in order to, get the kids back. And if they are meeting all those goals, then then
it'll happen. They'll go back to their parents.
Then it'll happen and they're reunified or they're placed with family if that's a viable option or.
Wow.
Yeah. So by the time the adoption went through, how old was Rebecca?
So she was just about to turn 6 when she first came to us. And she was 8 when we adopted her.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so she gets adopted and the boys aren't in the picture yet, right? Or are they? Are you fostering them already before the adoption goes through for the first?
So
I felt like it was pretty close together.
They were pretty close together. I'm trying to remember. They came in October. Her adoption was in March. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I don't think they're in any of her adoption pictures. Those pictures always get me. When people post the courthouse photo of, like, when the family becomes, like, a legitimate family.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty special.
Yes.
For the kid, too. There's, like, this permanency that they can rely on. Well, for everybody. For everybody.
For everybody.
Right?
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yes.
It's such a good feeling.
It's such a good feeling.
Oh, that's wonderful. What did you do to celebrate? Do you mind my asking?
No,
did you go out for ice cream or like what?
So after her adoption, we did go out after, and then we ended up having a party.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
At the church.
Yes.
Yes.
Probably a large party, right?
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun. Both my mother-in-law and my mom, helped plan food and. Yeah, so it was good.
It's kind of like you don't get the baby shower, right? You don't get that, and then it's like this other party that you get that like nobody else gets.
That after party.
It's an after party.
And they get to be a part of it and remember it. And,
yes.
Well, depending on their age, but yeah.
But they have pictures if they don't really remember it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So it's special.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So did you have a lot of support family-wise, friend group-wise, church family-wise? Like what did that look like?
So definitely we do have a lot of support. Cal and I are both from big families, and they're all very supportive. And our church family is very supportive. People would, check in on us and make us meals or whatever we needed. But yeah, especially like if you first get a new placement, like it's the first day or two is very like emotional. It's a roller coaster. And there's a lot going on. There's paperwork. Within 24 hours, they have to be seen by a doctor, so it's a very busy time. So people would step in and help then and, just help the transition or if there was things we needed.
Right.
So we've always felt we had a very good family support and church support.
Did you have anyone who did not support you? Like thought it was a terrible idea or?
Not that I can think of.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
I don't think anyone ever told us, we shouldn't do it or,
It's wonderful.
I think it would be interesting to I can't help but compare this a little bit to my own experience of having kids, right? And like you have a kid and they tell you can bring it home, which is shocking. And then you figure out who this kid is and you start realizing they like this and they don't like that and they like to be held like this, but not like that and whatever. But they're from day one where you're like, they're not going to remember any of this if I do it wrong anyway. And you get a
you
kid.
Console yourself. You console yourself with that, right?
Right. Right. And then you're just like, I don't know. I don't know. And then all of a sudden someone gives you a 6-year-old. You're just like, hi.
Yeah.
What do you like to do? Like you can like have full conversations and like get to know how that child likes to be held or not held or talked to or it must be so interesting to step into parenting someone who already has a full set of ideas and attitudes and thoughts and
right.
And it's just like, how is that initial getting to know each other phase? Like, they just show up? Like, someone just brings them to your house? How does this work? They just, like, bring them to your house and say, like, hi, this is so-and-so?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
So with Rebecca, they had kind of known her situation was going to be going more towards adoption. Which is why they contacted us because they knew that's kind of, in the end, what we were looking for. So what they did with her is they had her at first come spend a weekend with us. And
is she kind of interviewing you as well? Like, could she say, I don't like them? She could have.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely asked a lot of questions. She's always been very inquisitive. She likes to ask a lot of questions. So she came and spent a weekend with us. And then they, talked to us after and they're like, okay, so like, what did you guys think? Like, and we're like, yeah, like she could come back. So I think it was like 2 weeks later, then they moved her in with us permanently. But yeah, I mean, you start going through everything. Okay, well, what kind of foods do you like? Like, what kind of toys? What's your favorite color? You take them to a store. Okay, what do you like? What do you not like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go, you have to figure things out pretty quick. So
yeah.
So how old is she now?
She's 10 now.
She's 10. Okay. So she's been with you for 4 years.
Yes.
Wow. That's great.
So now, how did she feel about, actually, I don't even think Lois knows. So we're talking about the boys. Now, these weren't two separate placements. This was a sibling set.
Okay.
And from some of my reading before we jump into that, I was reading that the hardest placements in foster care are sibling sets and teenagers.
Yeah.
So was the sibling set a hard sell for you?
I mean, yes and no. So what we would do when we would get a phone call, well, I would get the phone calls. They would call me and be like, hey, we have a kid who is this age. This is kind of the situations they're coming from. This is what we know. Are you willing to take them? And I would never say yes right away. I would say, okay, I gotta talk to Talon and I'll call you back. And if, he was like, no, then we would say no. But if we both were like, okay with the situation, then we would say yes. If we both had a piece about it. And so they called and they said, okay, we have 14-month-old twins. Like, would you, this is what we know about them. This is where they're coming from. So I called Tal and he was a little bit shocked at first.
As everyone is when they find out they're having twins.
He was like, are you sure? And he was like, what do you think? I was like, yeah, I would do it. And I was like, well, what do you think? He's like, well, yeah, I'm fine with it. He's like, but like, obviously you're home more, like you're going to have to be the one like handling them and whatever, like most of the time. And if that's something you think you can handle, then okay. Like, I don't feel like I should say no. Like, he didn't get like I should say no feeling or,
Yeah.
And so we said yes. And I think I had about 3 hours before they were dropped off from when they called. So that was a little crazy.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did you just say they called you, you guys talked, and 3 hours later the kids were there from when they called you? Oh my word. Okay.
It was pretty quick. They had, they were.
That's no 9 months to prepare for this, or even, 6 months or 3 months or whatever when they say you're having twins.
No, it's not even 9 hours.
Not even 9 hours. Oh.
No, it was a few, 3 hours. I think when I called them back to say yes, I was in the Market Basket parking lot. And
your groceries weren't even put away yet.
I was like, so,
I have 2 babies.
When are you thinking of coming? And when would they be removed and dropped off? And they were like, it'd be about 3 hours. And I was like, oh. And I saw one of my friends in the parking lot, and she looked at me, and I must have had this look on my face.
Yeah.
She looked at me, she's like, what's going on? And I was like, so they're dropping off twins in 3 hours. I was like, I gotta get home.
I need to go buy some car seats. 2 car seats, cause I don't only need 1. Oh.
Yeah, did you have to go out and buy everything, or did you just put the word out and people started dropping stuff off?
Both. So they got dropped off, and they came with a couple of things, not much. So I called Tal, and I gave him a list of things I needed, and he stopped at the store and grabbed everything we needed and brought it home, and he came home from work.
He goes to work and he comes home and there's 2 more kids.
Yeah. So
what a wild ride.
Yeah.
So that was it's a little crazy, but
So you didn't get them for a trial for the weekend?
No.
They just came and stayed.
They just came and they said, here you go.
Wow. So what did Rebecca think about that?
She had mixed emotions. I mean, she was really excited.
Yeah.
But then, she was like, she did have her days where she was like, they get more attention than me, or, things like that. So she had a little bit of an adjustment period, which is understandable.
Yeah. Every sibling does when they
exactly
own a new baby or 2 arrive. Mm-hmm. Probably 2 or 3 babies arriving at the same time causes more,
I would guess,
of an adjustment period than just 1.
That's crazy. So they, once again, I'm always having to picture this. So once again, you go home with your groceries from Market Basket, you and Rebecca, probably, and putting your groceries away, calling with a list, sending the word out to people about what you need so that they can drop stuff off. And then this lady just shows up and is like, plunk, plunk, here's 2 car seats, here's 2 babies, 14 months old. Here's their few things, sign on the dotted line. And you're just kind of like that.
Yeah, basically. They give you the paperwork and they tell you, okay, they told me, they have a doctor's appointment tomorrow at this time. And cause they have to be seen within 24 hours of being placed. I guess that's a rule in New Hampshire. And yeah, so they went through the paperwork with us. I think I called my mom and my sisters and I said, I don't know if I'm crazy, but we just got twins. But yeah, so.
So you fostered them, or was that directly to adoption? How did that process work?
So it was fostering.
Okay.
So with their situation, we had visits with their mom. They would go once a week. And then if the bio parent is doing everything the state has asked and doing really well, they can do more visits. So they would get picked up by there's a someone who will come and pick them up and watch them during the visit and, just kind of supervise, and then drive them home. So they were doing that. And, you have your hearing every 3 months just to see how things are going. They check in with, the bio parents and see Are they making step forward? Are they doing everything that they're being asked to do? Are they trying to stay involved? Are they,
So for a while, there was a lot more parent involvement, and they were trying to take the steps to move forward to get the boys back and all of that. So you were doing that. It was a little bit of a different process because there wasn't as much of that with your first foster to adopt placement. There wasn't a lot of, was there any of that really?
No, because,
a family involvement.
No family involvement with Rebecca. The judge had a no contact order with anyone in the family just because of things that had went on. And so we didn't have any of that with her.
Okay. So that was a different thing then when you got the boys, that you had a lot of the family involvement aspect of it. And then I have heard from other people, and I don't know if this was your case, but when the kids would come back, then they would maybe have some behavioral problems during those transitions of like seeing the parent and then coming back to the foster home, and then seeing the parent and coming back to the foster home could be a little bit of a roller coaster for the kid too, because they're just like, they don't quite know. They're too young to really figure out what's going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to deal with a little bit of that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that made it a little bit harder.
They would come back and, be very clingy, just want to be held. They got to a point where the lady would come to pick them up and they would just cry. They didn't want to go because it was confusing for them.
Right.
Which is understandable. They would obviously be fine once they got there. But yeah, you definitely had a transition where, it was hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then too, it was also hard for Rebecca because she was like, well, they're seeing their family. Like, why can't I see mine? And to try to explain that, to a 6, 7, 8-year-old is hard. Like,
yeah.
So we had that too, but
wow,
because both cases were so different.
Right.
So
yeah. And I suppose even from a kid's perspective, it's just like, well, I know I was a foster kid and was adopted, and I know they're foster kids and they might get adopted or whatever. And so it's all the same. So they get that and I don't, and it's just, it's so cut and dry when you're a kid. You don't understand all the nuances of, this is for your own good, or this is for protection, or this is, this might not, this is the best thing for you and you have to trust us type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's tough. Because I was reading some statistics and I talked to Lois a little bit about this before we hopped on, and I was starting to get pretty sad reading the statistics.
Yeah.
That like 80% of foster kids end up in foster care due to neglect or abuse.
Yeah.
A lot of them come in with already a lot of hurt.
Yes.
And then the back and forth and the different stuff. And then the other thing is like a lot of them don't get the mental health, behavioral health type of care very early on, like the early intervention where they would need it because of just everything going on. It's really hard to access that kind of care. Even, I don't know if you have tried to access that kind of care, but even as someone not even in the system at all, trying to like get care for a kid at one point in my life, it was really hard to just find somebody that was taking new patients, that was available, that would take the insurance, that, check all those boxes.
Yeah.
There's just a lack of that right now. And I don't know if there's such a lack of it or there's just such a need for it, right? I think the need has increased a lot faster than the resources have increased.
Yeah. I think it's both.
It's probably both.
Because we definitely went through that with Rebecca, because when she first came to us, she was in therapy, doing play therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then with her, what had happened was the therapist she was seeing ended up getting a new job, but they thought, oh, she's doing really well. Let's graduate her from therapy. So I was like, well, they're like, or, you can get transferred to someone else. And at the time, I wasn't real comfortable with anyone else in the office that was there. So I was like, well, okay, that's something we can do. Let's graduate her from therapy and just, see how things go. And so we had been out of therapy for, I forget how long, a year. And then we both, Cal and I decided, yeah, we should maybe start back up again. And trying to find someone, it took me a very long time.
Yeah, it's hard.
I tried everywhere I could think of. I tried different types of therapy. I tried like getting her into horse therapy. I tried, all these different things, and they either weren't taking new patients or didn't take her age group, or, it was all something. So yeah, it was tough.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing was I was trying to figure out where New Hampshire fit on as far as needing foster care or whatever, but they fall in like 45th in the states of foster care needs. Like the highest ones. Do you know what the number one state is where there's the most kids in the foster care program? You didn't know there was going to be a pop quiz, did you?
No, we didn't. Neither one of us prepared for it.
I was surprised, although when I read about why, it started to make a little bit of sense to me. But you want to take a guess or no? Come on, guess.
I don't know.
I want to guess.
Yeah, guess.
So is this per population? Per capita?
Per capita.
Okay.
Yes.
Because,
how many
obviously
kids per 1,000?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to guess based on poor. Oh, my first thought was something like Arkansas. I have no idea.
No.
I don't know, I guess my first thought was, Michigan.
No, Michigan is actually 34th.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Number 1, Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I would not have guessed
because of the high rate of alcohol and drug abuse with the natives.
Yeah.
And the rates of depression and yada, yada,
Wow. Yeah,
So-
that makes sense. Once you say it, it makes sense.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah. And number 2 actually makes a lot of sense to me too, because I've watched all the documentaries on Oxy, but West Virginia.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
High poverty, high drug rate.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids end up in foster care because of drug abuse or alcohol abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So addiction is pretty much the number one reason why we've seen any kind of increase in different areas with foster is usually that,
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
which is super sad. But New Hampshire's 45th. It's like,
Who's the last? Who's the 50th?
did I even put that? I don't think I did. I was just looking up like states that were anywhere close to me or where you guys lived or whatever. So I did have Michigan because I grew up there. So that was 34th. Washington's 22nd. You're kind of middle of the line there.
Mhm.
Massachusetts, 19.
Mhm.
So Massachusetts and New Hampshire, we border each other pretty close. So like, I wonder how many of the kids that people are getting in foster. Does it go state by state or do kids go over borders? Like, would you ever get a foster from Massachusetts? Or how does that work?
That I think would only work if they were going to a family member, or if you
Okay.
were a family member in a different state.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem, even though they're 45th, it didn't seem like you had there was no lack of placement. Like they were calling you quite a bit and you took quite a few
Absolutely.
placements. It wasn't like but that's just saying how many kids per capita are in the foster care program in these different states. And it's not saying how many foster families are available to help these children. I didn't look
no,
that
there's
up,
definitely
right?
a need.
Yeah. I mean, it said, so the estimate right now for the entire United States is 390,000 kids in foster care.
Wow.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's quite a bit, right? 390,000 kids in the U.S. That was the last stat that I saw. But
Yeah.
so did you ask Rebecca when you guys got to the point where you were talking about getting the twins? Did she have a vote? Was she a voting member of the family or was she?
So we did sit her down and talk to her when we knew like it was gonna go that way for adoption. We did, ask her how she felt about it. And, at that time they had been with us had been over a year. So, they all had started bonding and, so she was definitely on board with it. She was excited.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as when we first took them, she was at school. So.
Did she come home from school and the kids were there?
No, she had come home and then they came, it was a little while later. So we were able to tell her, or I was able to tell her and kind of tell her what was happening.
Give her 15 minutes to prepare.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if you only know you're expecting for 3 hours, how much time can you give?
Yeah.
So, what questions do you have, Lois? I feel like I talk too much sometimes.
I've been asking my questions.
You have been, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know something that I wondered. Oh.
Nope, you don't. You go.
So, you don't have to pay anything to get certified or any of your inspections, stuff like that. Like, the state just takes care of that. You just go to all the classes. They say, yep, you're like good to go. When you get the foster kid, is it true that you get like a certain amount of money per month, depending on what state and kid and whatever, like you get so much per month for fostering?
Yeah. Yep. So it depends on the age and, there's different, are they special needs? Are they,
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the situation, but yeah.
Right. I mean, you're not going to like make money off having them.
No,
it's going to help absorb the cost of doing it.
Yeah.
And then then you also, cause adoption, just straight up adoption from different organizations or whatever can be really expensive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure you looked into it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much is it to adopt from one of those other agencies?
So when we were looking into agencies, and this was a few years ago, so it could be more now, but the average they were telling us was $30,000.
Ooh.
Depending on whether it was like an overseas adoption or,
Yeah.
Right. So then when you go foster to adopt, is there zero fees?
Yeah, zero fees.
Wow.
They took care of everything, yeah.
That's great.
Wonderful.
And then once they're adopted, they're like, no more foster money.
Right.
Yeah.
They're yours. Signed, sealed, and delivered.
There are situations where you can fill out paperwork to try and keep it going, if you felt it was necessary, or if there was like really like special needs, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That you would have medical expenses or something like that, or would they naturally qualify? Do they qualify for like Medicaid and things like that, or does that also you have to carry the insurance and whatever? Is it pretty? I guess what I'm asking is like once the adoption actually happens, for the majority of it, it's just like anybody else, like your kid, you deal with everything. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So one thing they did let us do is carry over their health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's good.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. Well, especially because you guys are self-employed.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. That's a big deal then.
That's a tough one. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
And there has been some medical stuff. I mean, the one little guy I know has had a lot of eye doctor appointments and has the cutest little pair of glasses.
I love glasses on little kids. They're so cute.
So cute.
So when we first got the boys, they had always suspected fetal alcohol syndrome, but we've had a lot of doctor's appointments with them. We did, the helmets, to, fix their head shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Killian, he had, I forget the term for it, but like, droopy eye.
Mm-hmm.
So he had surgery for that. And he also had like a little extra finger.
Mm.
So he had surgery on that. And about, I want to say it was like 3 months after they were placed with us, Kieran had a seizure. So we had a lot of, testing and stuff for that. And follow-ups, and I'm trying to think, was there anything else?
Did he ever have any more, or just the one?
Just the one.
Praise God.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so I have to ask. You said Rebecca, and
Yes.
you said Killian, is that right?
Killian, yep.
And then Kieran?
Kieran.
How do you spell it?
Which one?
Kieran.
Kieran.
Oh, Kieran is Kieran.
Oh, how funny. I have a Kieren.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's how I knew exactly which one she was asking you to spell.
She knew
because
which
I
one
know
I was-
she has a Kieran, and so I was like, I know she's
Yeah.
asking. I know
Yeah.
where
Oh,
she's going
funny.
with this.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. That's cool.
Hey, look, if you needed another K name, Killian.
I know.
that's kind of a
Killian.
cool
I'm beyond those days.
name.
Not there.
all of Lois's kids start with K.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's
That's
got
awesome.
a few of them.
Mm-hmm. And you got to start hunting around after a
Yeah.
while.
Get creative.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So then the boys, so you had Rebecca for 2 years before her adoption went through, and you had the boys, you said about 2 years as well before their
About
adoption
2
went through?
years, yeah.
So is that just standard kind of?
It can be. By
Yeah.
the time, the parents get the full year,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start going through the whole termination process and things like that, yeah.
hmm
And then if you decide to do mediated adoption, then, you sit down. That's another step. You sit down with the bio parents and kind of come up with an agreement. And yeah.
Oh, so sometimes the biological parents will allow an adoption, like an open adoption. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't necessarily have to be open.
It's
So-
just like they're making the choice. Like, yeah, I
They're
think the
making
kids
the
would be better
choice.
off with this, with you
Yeah.
guys. And so we're
Yeah.
going to sign over our rights to you guys. And
Yeah. So if they willing, if I don't know about willingly, but if they sign over their rights and do a mediated adoption, then they get, some say and they can ask for
Mhm.
things, as opposed to if they like refuse to sign anything and the state just does it, then,
Mhm.
then, they get
Okay.
nothing.
okay.
So with both of our adoptions, we did mediated adoption and we agreed to send updates twice a year with pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it could be anything,
Mhm.
And we, in our agreement, we have things like, anything major, any major medical, like we'll keep them informed, things like that.
Right.
So how long have you had the boys now?
October will be 3 years.
Okay. So they're 4.
They just turned 4 on Monday.
Okay.
Just turned 4.
Yeah. So I have a question then about that. So
Yeah.
Rebecca was 6. She obviously knew she was adopted from the minute she came,
Yep.
and the boys are not. I mean, they were babies.
Yeah. They don't, yeah.
So how does that work as far as, do you openly talk about adoption, about them being adopted, about their bio parents, about like, or is it more like someday you're going to have to sit down with them and say, okay, boys, we need to have a conversation.
So with the boys, I talk about their mom and I'm still in contact, with their grandpa and 2 of their uncles and their aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all came over the other Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Their mom passed away. But I do take them like on her birthday to the graveyard,
Okay.
to bring flowers and things.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't hide it.
So they will know as they grow.
Yeah, as they, they will know. That's,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing we said right from the beginning, like it's not something we would ever want to hide from them,
Right.
because there's so many statistics and stories about kids who
Mhm.
found out later in life and, how that affected them. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you are honest from the beginning, it's less, I think it just causes less trauma for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they know right from the beginning, because also there's a lot of stories and statistics of adoptees who, they always feel like part of them is missing or,
Yeah.
something's not Right. And that even can come from being adopted as an infant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's a lot of stories like that. And, you know, they always have the sense that, you know, which is very hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a trauma to be adopted, really. I mean, you're pulled from your, you know, in
your biological family.
You connect with your mother.
Yes.
Your bio family, you know, so, and then you're pulled from that. And I know one thing that was always hard is, you know, people would be like, oh, you know, that's so great. They're with you. But
at what cost?
It's traumatizing for them to come to our house.
Yeah. At what cost?
At what cost? Exactly. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. It would have been better if the parents could be healthy and raise healthy children. I mean, that's just ultimately what we all want for all the kids out there, right? Like, it's hard to see kids go through stuff when they're just vulnerable and helpless, and they're just kind of, things are just happening to them and around them. And they don't really have any say in anything, you know, so.
Mm-hmm. And the hard thing with kids so young that are going through all of this is they don't know how to process it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it comes out in behavior.
Yeah, they don't have the words.
They don't have the words. They don't have the ability to, you know, think about things the way like an adult would. And so it comes out in behaviors, and that I think can put them in a negative light to people. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they are treated differently, which is really hard. Mm-hmm. So I think starting as soon as you can to work through things and get them, you know, help to process everything, and being honest with them about, you know, being adopted and their story is healing for them. And there is healing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, can I tell you something cool? I was talking to a girl at church who is adopted. She's older, and she had went to a camp, a summer camp, and I would see her in church before, and she was kind of, you know, I knew her name, so I'd always say hi, and she's me. And I was like, she's this teenager, just acting kind of all emo or whatever. And then I see her, and all of a sudden, like, she's looking me in the eye, and she's like, guess what? I was like, what? And she's like, I went to this camp, and I was like, yeah, tell me about it. And she was just like, the guy there was reading, and he read in the Bible and told me that we're all adopted into the family of Christ. And guess what? I'm not the only one adopted. Everyone's adopted.
I love it.
And so she's like, I'm a brother and sister in Christ, and like, I'm part of the family. Like, I'm adopted into the family, and you're adopted into the family. We're all adopted into the family. And it was just like this revelation to her. Yeah. And she was like, now for the rest of my life, I just want to tell people about Jesus Christ and what he's done for me. And I was like, praise God. But it like really struck her in a deep, deep spot. Yeah. Right? Because of the reality of how her life had played out so far. Yeah. And I thought that was amazing.
And we've had that conversation with Rebecca too. And she was like, then she was going around telling people like, oh, you're my brother. You're my sister.
Yeah. Right.
We're all adopted.
It's true.
Yeah, exactly.
If only like every believer in the church could get it in their heads that really is the truth of it, that there is no hierarchy of it in the family. It's like we are all brothers and sisters in Christ, whether it's Rebecca or me and the 70-year-old and the 90-year-old and the 2-year-old. You know what I mean? That like we are all a big family. And that's the unique thing about the Christian church, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more, well, especially for Rebecca right now, what we're really working with her on is, you know, who are you in Christ? Like, who does he say you are? What does he, like, what are his promises to you? And really trying to get her to focus on that instead of letting, you know, her past define her.
Girl, I'm still working on that.
Absolutely, we all are.
Yep. We're all adopted, remember?
You know, yeah.
We're all, I mean, it's a process.
But to start as a parent, to show them their identity in Christ at a young age, I think that's great, you know. I don't think I was ever really taught that. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's taken me into my older years to really figure out what that really means for me, you know.
Yeah.
So do you have the boys in play therapy as well then?
I actually haven't done any therapy with them.
Okay. Do you plan to, or do you feel it's not necessary, or just going to kind of wait and see?
Right now, I think we're just kind of waiting to see as they get older if that's something they're going to need. But as of right now, I mean, they're 4. At one point we had thought maybe, but
that's pretty young still.
It is. So
I don't spend time at your house and we're not best friends or anything, but I only get to see the boys at church. But by all accounts, they look pretty well adjusted.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, pretty fun and confident and silly and just typical 4-year-olds,
Yeah. Oh, they've definitely come a long way. So,
yeah.
We had to do a lot of early intervention stuff because they were behind. And when they first came, they were 14 months, but they couldn't really walk or, anything like that. And then, so we started working with early intervention and they, would do like physical therapy stuff and, different things. And then you do that, you work with early intervention until you're 3. And then, once they turn 3, then your local school system is supposed to take over. So they actually went 2 days a week during the school year last year. And, they did some occupational therapy with Kieran and, speech therapy with both of them. So there's still things that they're learning and trying to fill like the gaps that they had.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, for sure. Do you know if the kid, I'm guessing the boys probably weren't placed before they came to you with anybody else?
No.
You were the only placement. And then was Rebecca placed with other people prior to being placed with you?
Yes, she was.
Like multiple placements?
She was in one other foster home.
Only
before
one.
She came to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause, I was reading this one statistic and I was like, holy cow. It was about kids that are placed in 7 or more placements have like a 85% chance of developing a major mental health problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was reading that and thinking, is there already a mental health problem from abuse and neglect in some of these kids that cause them to continue to be placed and not stay? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's both ways.
What
because
comes
like
first, yeah.
Exactly. Because like even in the 2 years, let's say that you have a kid and you're going through the first year, the parental grace period or whatever you want to call it, like the foster parents at that point, somewhere during that year too, can also just be like, you know what, this is just too much. There's just too many behavioral things going on here. This is affecting, maybe there's other kids in the household that it's just like, it's not going to work out. And then they have to be placed somewhere else. And like, I understand both sides of it, but with each additional placement, the kid has more and more stuff, that they're trying to sort out, like why they keep being, even though it's not really how it is, but like why they're being rejected or unwanted or, there's all of those feelings.
They carry that with them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, and they don't have the words or the processing to be able to deal with it. And so at some point.
So then the question is foster to adopt versus straight adoption. Like the parent just puts the child up for adoption. What are the pros and cons of each and like the long-term outcome of each? Do you know? Do either of you know?
I don't.
I
mean, well, I can say just from talking here, I mean, one of the pros definitely to foster adopt is, well, 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. 1, you're filling an immediate need.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is already there. And 2, if it goes to adoption, you're saving yourself about $30,000.
Well, and
right?
the child has that transition period of getting to know the family, settling into a place. Yeah. Settling into a home before there actually is permanency.
That's true.
Which could be a knife that cuts both ways, right? Because if, like you were talking about, they're placed 7 times, that's a big transition every time and a big trauma every time.
Yeah.
So it can be really good to be placed and stay and be adopted. I always think about we chose you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Stacey and I just got stuck with what we got stuck with, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and one of them's just like me, and I'm telling you, it's no walk in the park.
But no, I think it seems like that would be a really big positive to make sure that the child knows we chose you.
Yeah, we could have given you back. we did.
Right.
We wanted you. We kept you. We wanted you. We love you. Like, we're in this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that gives them that, consistency and that feeling of security.
Yes.
That is eventually going to help heal those past traumas.
For sure. You know, that when I think about all the people I know that were adopted, though, they were all adopted as infants.
Yeah.
And that's what most of the time, what people want is they want to adopt an infant.
Yeah.
Because I think, just biologically as women, we have the majority of us have this innate desire to have a baby.
Right.
So we always picture it like being a baby and then growing up. And so I think that's just like our natural desire until you start thinking outside the box and thinking there are these other needs and maybe we ought to think about this, right? And that's huge. My husband and I have talked about fostering, but as a thing where once we're empty nesters.
Yeah.
Like some people have retirement plans of traveling the country. I kind of had retirement plans of fostering teenagers.
Yeah. Because those are the ones that are going to age out of the system.
They're going to age out.
Right.
And and I don't know, I didn't get to look. I think I saw somewhere that they raised the age of when they age out. They used to age out at 18.
Yeah.
They'd age out of the system. And I think they raised that to 21.
Oh, really?
Maybe not in all states, maybe in some states. Okay. And they were finding out that if the kid got the choice, right? If at 18, if the kid wanted to be emancipated, they could be emancipated and they would be, free to do what they wanted without a foster parent. But if the foster parents chose to let the kid stay and the kid chose to also stay, that the parents could still get the resources available to just give that kid that extra step up, because we all know very few of us, I mean, I did. I split town at 17, but the majority of kids, especially nowadays, they don't have the resources to be out on their own at 18.
Right.
They just don't. So they're finding that to let the kid still have those benefits and maybe be able to get some junior college or trade school or something under their belt and help them get their first car, all these things before they age out has been statistically, the kids have more success.
Right.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
It makes total sense. I don't think they should. I can't imagine. I mean, I have a 19-year-old. I don't think he could survive on his own. I know he couldn't. There's no way. If he aged out of the system and we gave him the boot, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not ready. Not all kids are ready at 18.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And especially kids with trauma, I guess, especially if you experience trauma at a young age, your brain stops developing.
Yeah, totally.
At some point. So
totally. Yeah.
So even with Rebecca, she's 10, but sometimes her mindset is still very much younger. Till, that can fully heal, and with the help of therapy and, help her process everything and really fill in those gaps. But yeah, a lot of them aren't ready at 18.
Yeah.
So the question I've been wondering about for a while now, would you foster again? Would you adopt again?
Yeah, we would.
You would consider growing your family?
Eventually, yeah. I mean,
not right now.
Not right now.
Says the mother of every set of 4-year-old twin boys everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, not right now, but maybe someday.
Right.
It's not something we've, said, okay, that's it.
Are you still getting calls?
So, no, not right now.
So you can tell them we're
pushing pause?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do they try to check in with you and be like, you guys ready again? Yeah. Have they?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, yeah.
Is there a limit to how many kids you can foster adopt?
I think there's a limit on the number of kids you can foster at one time, but I don't think there's a limit on how many you can adopt.
Okay.
I guess I'm not sure on that.
Do you know the number of, like, what the max number of kids you can be fostering at one time is?
I think it's 7, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah. That seems
I'd have to look that up.
right. That seems like 2 past what I could handle. At 4, probably 4 past what I don't know.
But even with that, like if you were going over and it was something like you felt strongly about or whatever, you can get exceptions.
Okay.
Well, I know somebody that has adopted however many, and it was like, I think it was like some kind of max. Was it foster or was it adopt? It was someone local. And they had said that that's enough for you guys. Like, you have so many kids. I think they had a bunch of their own biological as well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, so they were just like, okay, they figured, well, we're done, and that's our family. And then they got a call to place a sibling set because they could not find anybody. And they were like, you guys would be perfect for it. And they were like, I thought you guys said we were done. And they were like, yeah, but except for these 2.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, and they took them.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So.
When there's a need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just Googled it and it says 8 children total.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't you have to have like your home requirements? You had to do the home inspection. Each child has to have their own room and their own, like.
Wait a second. Each kid has to have their own room?
How does that work?
So the boys could stay together.
Yeah.
But while we were fostering, like, they couldn't all be together. If we fostered another girl, we would have had, we would have to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
But the boys
you can't even have 2 girls in one room?
if they were siblings, yes.
Oh, only siblings. All right.
Yeah. Like siblings were 2, like if you took in 2 girl siblings, right? Yeah, they could room together and have a room together. Yeah.
Yeah. But even though you adopted the one girl, if you fostered another girl, she couldn't stay in the same room with her?
I don't believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's pretty stringent. The rules are pretty stringent and they are for a reason.
Sure. For
I
protection.
don't disagree
for
with
sure.
them. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important.
So how many bedrooms do you have in your house?
So we have 3, but like we have another like area that we could use, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess the future we'll have to wait and find out, like, what's going to happen. It'll be like a cliffhanger. Nobody will know until
Right.
Ashley's 55, 60. I know how many kids she'll have.
Right. When we did have like an infant, we could set up like a pack and play in our room, right? So like, we could do that.
Yes. Okay.
And still have like the boys in their room and Rebecca in her room.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things you can do, like, if you need to.
And isn't it, or is it true, I guess I should say, is it true that once you adopt and it's final, those rules go away?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So if there was someone out there thinking about foster adopting, is there any bit of advice or something that you would have them consider before doing that?
If you think you're going to do it in the future, I would learn anything you could on trauma so that you're not trying to learn as you're going. That's, one thing I wish we would have done more of. And I've heard that from other, adoptees and foster families. The other thing is they do say, like, it's a good idea to, like, if you do have other kids in your home, like, try to keep that birth order.
Mm-hmm.
So don't adopt kids older than what you already have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying don't, but, like, they recommended to us, like, during the classes, like, to keep a birth order.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they would still say that, I don't know. But that's just one of the things.
It's something to consider for sure.
Something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And you definitely need to make sure you have a support group, because if the people around you aren't on board or, then it makes it very tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say get to know other foster families or adoptive families, because it's nice to be able to talk with someone that's going through the same things you are and that has been through it.
Yeah.
Definitely build up a support group,
Yeah.
get to know other foster families, learn anything you can on trauma. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's good advice.
Yeah. When you get to talk to someone else that has already been through it, the nice thing about it is there's so much that doesn't have to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can talk right to the issue and they just get it and they understand it. And they can, and they might be able to also say like, oh, we tried this or that, or sometimes it's just like, yeah, it's tough. We get it. We understand. Like, we hear you. Yeah.
We hear you. And that's sometimes all you need.
Right. That's all
to know
you
that
need,
somebody understands you. And I remember one time I was having a rough day, and I forget who I was talking to, but their comment to me was, well, this is what you signed up for.
Ooh.
And I'm like, well, yes, but no.
There's no empathy there at all.
Yeah. So
that's kind of like the, you made your bed, now you need to lie in it.
Yeah.
Like you go to your mom after you're newlywed and you're, my husband, you made this bed, now you need to lie in it. You know, it's just like, just have some compassion.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it is nice to be able to talk to people who might be going through the same things with, their adoptive kids or their foster kids or.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's so interesting, the different paths and ways that people end up with the families that they have. So yeah, Ashley, thank you for sharing part of your story on how your family came to be. And thank you for being someone willing to put yourself out there into the unknown and make yourself available to create that family for those kids, right?
Yes. To have a heart big enough to do that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it takes a lot of trust in God, I think, to be able to put yourself out there like that. To trust that he's gonna walk with you through that and you're gonna know what to do and figure it out as you go, and that he'll take care of it, because it's a scary unknown.
Yeah.
It is.
So anyway.
So thank you for joining us.
God bless you for all that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, that was so insightful and so informative. And would you be willing to, if anyone has questions or has more interest, would you be willing to have them contact us and we could put them in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that something you'd be interested in? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, if you have comments, specifically if you have questions for Ashley or you need more information or something, you can email us at whosegirlareyou@gmail.com, and we will make sure that we get this information to her and she'll be able to connect with you.
whosegirlareyou@gmail.com. WHOSE, whosegirlareyou@gmail.com.
Perfect. I think more foster adopt parents would be a good thing.
All right, ladies, have a good night. I'm going to go watch some Netflix.
There you go. Have fun.
All right. Have a good night.
All right.
Thanks,
bye, guys.
Bye.